Hi everybody, my name is Norwood. I'm the director of the School of Kinesiology. If you don't know me yet, I got here in June. I was born in Vernon Parish, Louisiana, but I'm also a dual US-Australian citizen, so you might hear some weird twangs in my accent from time to time. I apologize for that. Bonsoir à tous et bienvenue à Réflexions sur les Jeux Olympiques de Paris. Bienvenue à LSU. Welcome to LSU and Reflections on the Paris Olympics. We're honored to have with us Professor Guillaume Bodet of the Université Claude Bernard Lyon 1 in France, as well as a panel of outstanding LSU Olympians and our legendary track and field coach, Dennis Shaver. I will introduce our featured guests throughout the program after a welcome message from Dean Roland Mitchell of the College of Human Sciences and Education. Please, Dean.
Good afternoon. Our director, his slip about health in our name kind of says that we really are at a moment where we're totally committed to holistic wellness and health. And I think this event tonight speaks to that commitment. So I am so glad to see you here and welcome. Welcome. Becoming an Olympian is the goal of many athletes around the world. LSU is blessed with a rich tradition of Olympians, including 32 athletes, 32, who participated in the Paris Olympic Games this past summer. As you know, Louisiana has a long history of connection with France due to our Louisiana French language and culture. It's therefore appropriate to connect LSU with France in a tangible way as we embark on collaborative work with the University of Lyon and in supporting the excellence of LSU and French athletes. In the College of Human Sciences and Education, we're on a mission to improve quality of life across the lifespan. Our world is changing fast in technology, in healthcare, and yes, in sport. But perhaps the most important thing is what has not changed and what may never change, and that's the power of human connection. The Olympic Games are a beautiful reminder of how special moments can be when we experience them together. Our college seeks to understand all aspects of people, their mental and physical health, their development, their environments. And the one thing I want you to know about this is we are change makers. Our research and our alumni leave an imprint, and not a light one, but one that alters the landscape, challenges minds, and forges new futures. So in conclusion, let me say, I'm glad you're here with us today. I'm excited to listen and to learn alongside you. I want to thank our esteemed panelists for being here. I also want to thank Dr. John Nauright, Director of the LSU School of Kinesiology, and Karen Wax Schmidt and Family Endowed Professor for organizing this event and for constantly innovating. You should know that the School of Kinesiology is your place for sport and health at LSU. And I invite you to get to know John, partner with us, be a change maker with us. And lastly, I wish to personally thank our event sponsors. A special thanks to the Consulate General of France in New Orleans and the LSU Center for French and Francophone Studies. Again, I wish to say welcome, and as always, go Tigers.
Thank you, Dean Mitchell. Just want to introduce it a little bit. I assume since everybody is of a certain age that you actually saw the Paris Olympics this past summer. Sometimes I talk about Olympic Games I've seen and people respond to me, I wasn't born yet. So I have to be really conscious of that. So we're trying to do something that's fresh in everybody's mind, but there's a dual purpose for this. One, because I was born in Louisiana, I'm passionate about Louisiana French culture and Louisiana French language. And so one of the things that I've been doing since I got here was look at ways that we can connect to opportunities in French-speaking parts of the world. There's some exciting things happening over the next couple of years. The Youth Olympics are going to be in Dakar in Senegal. and we have close relations with a number of universities. I'm excited to have Professor Bodet here with us. Guy is a longtime friend of mine. We've spent time in Moscow, in Macau, in a number of other places around the world. He has a phenomenal background in the fields of sports management and sports organization, sport marketing, and is a world expert. The Paris Olympics brought the world together for the first post-COVID-19 Summer Olympics. These games also took place at the time of the centenary of the 1924 Paris Olympics, and I'm sure nobody remembers that one. Made famous to a new generation in the 1980s and 90s through the Academy Award-winning film Chariots of Fire. Following the COVID-19 subdued and delayed Tokyo Olympics, Paris was an opportunity to bring the athletic world and spectators together once again in a global showcase of sports. The Paris Games began with a unique opening ceremony held along the River Seine with the iconic sights of Paris itself as the backdrop. Competition was outstanding from the opening events to the riveting basketball finals between the USA and France. The games were particularly exciting for us here at LSU as we had 32 Olympians who were or are university athletes here competing in Paris. I had to change my script because of delays in traffic for some of our guests. To learn about the Paris Olympics from the perspective of the French people, we've invited my good friend, as I mentioned, Professor Guillaume Bodet, to share with us his reflections as a French person on the Paris Olympics. He is Dean of the School of Sports Science and Physical Activity and Professor of Sport Marketing and Management at the University of Lyon, where he also leads the Laboratory on Vulnerability and Innovation in Sport. He is also editor of the academic journal Management et Organisation du Sport. His research focuses on sport marketing, branding, and consumer behavior. He's published on the London 2012 Olympics and its legacies and produced many other important works, including the books Sports Brands and the Routledge Handbook of Sport Management. After his remarks, we'll convene a panel of LSU Olympians to share their Olympic experiences and journeys as we celebrate them and the high quality of sports here at LSU, where we make champions. Please join me in welcoming Professor Bodet to the stage and to LSU.
Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. Good evening, everyone. I saw I'm wearing the same jacket, so you know this is really me. I've got to say I'm very, very happy to be here and very proud. For sure, giving this talk here in LSU, considering the importance of sport for this university, that will be a great memory, and I really, really look forward the collaboration we're going to have between our two universities. So when John asked me to talk about the Olympics, I thought maybe I won't be an academic tonight because it's probably too early. It's still recent, and so in academia and in science, we need time to properly evaluate. So I will be very subjective and biased, and will tell you more about my own story and my own perception about the Olympics in Paris. And I will try not to be too long, but the moment I say so, I know I'm wrong. So let's start first with Paris and France. This is not entirely new, but the Paris Olympics were not only in Paris. And more, because of involvement issues, engagement, but also cost, you can see Olympic sites in different places. And so here on this map, you can see a different city, and there was in my city, Lyon, football or soccer games. One that is very interesting is the one in Tahiti, and I don't know if you're familiar or not, but this is French island in Polynesia, so in the Pacific Island, when they had the surfing competition. So again, the idea, which is a challenge, is to have something that is really Parisian, but also French, where you can have as many French involved in this event. I'm gonna talk about 3 chapters in my story. And the first chapter is a prologue, and I'm using the title of French movie, that is Peur sur la ville, or Fear Over the City. And I'm using this title to highlight the fact that all the building up of the game has been extremely negative. The focus on the game, on the issues, and we'll see a couple of them, were very, very negative. And so, although it's an old ambition, because I don't like saying so, but we lost against the Brits for the London 2012 Olympics. So if you think about getting the game in 2012, probably they had the idea maybe in 2006. So this is a very, very old project, okay? It's also an ambitious project, especially because they had in mind very, very new things, original and innovative. So, such as the opening ceremony, the torch, go back to that, inclusion of new sports like breakdancing, that can be sometimes controversial. I don't think we'll see breakdancing, unfortunately, in Los Angeles, but that was an innovation, and so on and so forth. But the climate in France was particular, and we'll see like I said, there were many, many negative media content, all right? And also the very specific French context was difficult. We were in the middle of a political crisis where the President Macron called for new parliamentary elections. We had the elections, no party had the majority, so we didn't have a government. So right before the start of the Olympics, the first sort of thing we thought about was about, having some stability in the government. So not the greatest time to start the competition. And so the first issue of fear was security. As you probably know, unfortunately, Paris and other places in France were a victim of terrorist attacks in the past. And considering the size of the Olympics, the global audience of the Olympics, that was something that was very important there. So there were fear of that, but there were also fear about security in general. What about the cops? Will we have enough cops during the events? So many cops were to Paris. But what about the other cities? What if things happen in other cities? And even if in some cases as well we had money and funds, we didn't have enough human resources for the private security. So they had to build a lot of very short education and formational program. But I won't go too much into the detail, but that was an issue quite important in the media. There were also a lot of forecasting, prediction about transportation chaos. Just as an example, they were all supposed to have a new train line and metro line all around the city, okay? The initial plan was to have them for 2024. We will have them for 2026. 3 new lines and 3 metro extensions were supposed to be ready for 24. And again, now it will be 26, 27, and 28. So obviously you can think about the media and having all these focus that were not very, very exciting. There were also an issue, so some threats of strikes, but some could say this is not completely abnormal in France. But another one surprising was the price of the tickets. In the bid of the Olympics, one argument was we're gonna have popular games. And one factor for these popular games will be free transportation. So in the bid, it's about free transportation, and in reality, they double the tickets. So again, you can imagine all the comments about these issues. There were also occurrences of social cleansing. And so some population, some individuals were bussed away from Paris to prepare the games and to make sure that the camera, the media from the world will see only the positive side of the city. This is not, unfortunately, this is not entirely new, and there have been many academics working on that for the previous Olympics and for the mega events. The popular games issue I mentioned earlier, where again received some kind of a drawback with the ticketing, and which is unfortunate. But you know, the system is first system of sort of lottery, and then after you go through packages. The packages allow you to sell obviously the events that are the most popular, but also the ones who receive the less attraction. All right. So you have all them together, and that's easier. It started like that, but that was only the first step. That was not the only step, okay? But for many French people who applied for tickets, this was the prices, and oh, they want me to buy tickets for wrestling or for other sports like kayaking. I'm not interested in. And this is very expensive, obviously, because you had multiple events to pay for. But again, that was just the start. But for many people, it stopped them to get interested. And they didn't try to buy new tickets after that in the later rounds. There were ecological and construction issues, and probably the most popular one was the issue of the Judge Tower in Tahiti. This tower was constructed on the coral reef, and so it was damaging the reef, and so there were quite an intense debate about the impact and the negative ecological impact the tower and the games could have on this particular place. And I won't go into the detail of all the issues and cases, but as you can see on the map, on the bottom left, some groups, some activist groups tried to identify all the cases that were problematic, because we were building new things and then we were destroying natural places, we were destroying also buildings, and so it created a lot of debates. And probably one of the biggest one was the pollution of the Seine River. So just in terms of background, this river that goes literally through Paris has not been swimmable since 1923. No, sorry, this is not 23, 1923. So it has been, polluted for a long time. So having events in the river, it's highly ambitious. It's a huge investment, 1.5 billion euros. And obviously, there were sort of high expectations and waiting for, will it be ready for the test events? It wasn't. Then will it be ready for the main event? So we'll see that right after. So after all of that, and as you can see, I was easily able to pick international newspapers titles. So you can imagine that for French newspapers that was even more the case. So the question was, is there still like a positive mood around the Olympics after that? And then there was a little spark. And the little spark was the arrival of the torch by boat in Marseille. And suddenly, it was not necessarily hugely expected, but it was very, very popular and very successful. It was a beautiful day in the south of France, a big show. You had the planes with a French flag over the boat, which is an ancient boat, and you had famous artists, very, very popular sort of singers, and so long story short, it was a success. So then the narrative started progressively to change around that. And then this is the second chapter. And the second chapter is, I call it the parenthèse enchantée, which is a bit like the enchanted bubble, where suddenly you forget about everything. You forget about all the critiques, the issues, and suddenly you're just in it. You're just in the flow, and everything is fantastic. The opening ceremony, if you ask a French person about the opening ceremony, you don't know these Olympic Games, but for us, it was the Olympic Games, Winter Olympic Games in Albertville. And Découfflé was an artistic director, was very famous for that, and he created something that was really, really new. And so in people's mind, in French mind, there were high expectations about having really, really an innovative opening ceremony, not just a classic one. And so, I won't talk too long about the opening ceremony. I will just recommend you and suggest you to watch it on videos, but that was a blow. And I can tell you that after that, many, if not all French people were extremely proud about what happened. Proud because it was smooth, perfect, no security problem. The planes were forbidden to fly over several hours over the Parisian region. Just with this example, you can imagine how the security was really, really a strong issue, and everything went perfectly. I just want to highlight two things. The first one is the originality of the fact that it was in the city and not in a stadium. All right? And the second one is that it was probably the first time that was a ceremony made for screen spectators and not for in-stadium spectators. There were plenty of people alongside the banks of the river, but we saw the athletes for about 10 minutes in total. The rest of the time, we were watching giant screens, and we were like in a fan zone. So you see, clearly not a typical type of opening ceremony. And then I just want to focus on this one because John talked about Francophonie, and I just want to highlight one thing about the opening ceremony. It would be fantastic for you to watch the video of the opening ceremony with some of the comments from the artistic director. Because many things had a meaning. There were many symbols around it. And in this particular case, you've got Aleah, which is a young French singer, and she's the most listened French singer at the moment in the world. And there are debates, discussions in France at the moment about, does she speak properly French? Does she sing proper French? Well, she's a young person, then probably she won't speak the conservative French language. And we could also discuss that in general about the French, the French from Canada, the French from Louisiana, and so on and so forth. And what happened, behind her, you've got the French Academy. And the French Academy is the building where you've got academicians, and the academicians are there to protect the language. So if you want, they are the symbol of conservatism in terms of language. And you've got her right in the middle, singing her songs, but also singing the song of Charles Aznavour. So sorry for the students, because you probably don't know him, but he was a famous singer in North America also, and he was French, singing in French and in English, okay? And she was crossing the bridge, all right? And behind her, you have the Republican Guard. So another sign of the orthodoxy, if you want, of the country and the language. So now the conclusion is just to say that probably now the French language has evolved and is not right now spoken as it was before, and it is normal, and has sometimes old people would want us to speak about. Okay. So this is just one example of that, but there are many, many other sort of acts in this overall opening ceremony. The flame, I'm paraphrasing the Magritte surrealist painter, you know, this is not a pipe. This is not a flame, because there is no flame. This is electric, and you've got smoke, and you've got LED lights projected on the smoke. Quite innovative, you know? And also it was in the middle of a garden, it was not in the stadium, so again, something very iconic and unique. And then we had iconic places, I mentioned that, the blending, the mixing of the Olympic Games in the city. And obviously, which is probably the most important thing in the Olympics, we had great champions, we had great results, great events, great stories, great emotions. And I like telling us there were big stories, but there were also many, many little stories. And all of them make the games and the fact that we all loved them. Okay. Obviously, it was not entirely perfect. There were sort of little things, but overall, they are really, really minor ones. The safety issue, the security issue was indeed a real issue. Maybe it was a bit sort of exaggerated in the media, but that was a real issue, and there were sabotage right before of railways, right before the opening ceremony. Some events were postponed because of the pollution of the game. Some food issues, I don't know if you heard about it. Our friends from Great Britain complained about the food. In France. How are you? And in the idea of having as well, you know, multiple events is a good idea, but for instance, I attended the women's football game in Lyon for the bronze medal, and in a stadium of 60,000 capacity, there were only 12 to 15,000 spectators. So unfortunately, not all events were so well attended. After that, the Paralympics, and it goes on, and the spirit, the mood was really, okay, let's continue. This is great. And I'm just going to give you the example of some of my colleagues who were really deflated before the game, not enthusiastic. And after the game, they were like, wow, I missed that, so I will definitely go to the Paralympics, you know? I want to be there, I want to be part of that, and so there was a lot of enthusiasm around that. And again, it went very well, fantastic places, performances, and stories. And I just want to maybe talk about the one in the top left for you, which is Cécifoot, so blind soccer. And France won the final against Argentina. So that was a revenge because we lost in the FIFA World Cup. So we were really, really looking for it. And you can see that on YouTube and on videos. There is one moment in football games, you have the Mexican wave, you know? But in these events, you cannot make noise. Because the ball, they play with the ball with little bells in it. And so there were a silent Mexican wave all around the stadium. And this moment is just suspended. You just watch it and you're like, oh, I love it. Now the epilogue, and what happened after that? Well, the depression, la dépression, the Olympic blues. I mentioned, you know, this enchanted parenthèse, this bubble, suddenly the bubble was blown up. And that was really like a roller coaster. So we started very low because the expectations were low and the mood was not very, very enthusiastic. Then suddenly we went so high that when people told us, oh guys, you need to go back to work now. Huh, that's terrible. And so what will I do in the morning? No more results? No more events? Nothing? And so that was really, really funny, but in a way that was really going back to the reality, and at that time we still didn't have a government. So that was the go back to the reality of things. Impact and legacies, well, it's still too early to really and properly evaluate that, but unfortunately we don't get good signs about it. And now we have a government and they are talking about cuts for the budget of sports and physical activity. So before the game, they were talking about the Olympic legacy for sport participation and etc. And then one of the first decisions after that is to make cuts on the budget. So not the most overwhelming and enthusiastic thing. And what about now? Well, here we go again. We got the Olympics, the Winter Olympics for 2030. So again, we are kind of predictable. So you can see now there are new debates about ecology, about the cost, and it starts again. And well, I guess this is maybe just a normal Olympic cycle for France. So we will hopefully very enthusiastic and very happy when they will be there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Guy. I really appreciate that insight. And there's some interesting legacies, I think, that tie the United States and Lyon together in particular, because after the United States won the bronze medal in women's rugby against Australia, so I couldn't lose there, with Alona Mar playing for the United States, Michelle Kang, who owns the Olympique Lyonnais Féminine football club, invested millions of dollars to develop rugby for women in the United States. She also owns Washington Spirit and London Lionesses in women's soccer, and is creating a global brand really centered around the success of Olympique Lyonnais, which is the most successful women's soccer club in the world. So very exciting to hear your perspectives. Very typically French. Yay, and then, oh, it's going to be terrible, and then exciting again. In Australia with Brisbane 2032, they started talking about it as soon as the games were won. and criticism is like marginalized. So it's like, it's going to happen, it's great, the world's coming here, and the philosophy is generally more positive, even though you get little bits under the surface. Okay, so now we're going to kick to the second part of the program, and as we do sport, if you want to take just 1 minute to stretch, stand up, stretch your legs or whatever, do that, and we're going to invite the LSU Olympians to the stage for a little bit of Q&A. So we decided to make this a little more relaxed, given that I have heard from multiple Olympic athletes that athletes also suffer a little bit of Olympic blues after the games are over, because you push so hard to get there and then it's over and it's like, okay, do I stop? Do I take a break? Do I keep going? And when do I stop? And so sometimes that's a bit of a challenge. So let's move on in the program, and I just want to say it's my highest honor to introduce 3 outstanding LSU Olympians who've represented 3 different countries in probably the 3 most viewed sports at the Olympic Games. Aleah Finnegan is an NCAA national champion with the LSU gymnastics team and represented the Philippines in Paris. She was crowned the 2024 NCAA floor champion after posting a score of 9.9625. That's almost perfect. This was her first title and joined her sister, Sarah, as the only sibling duo to own individual national championships in LSU history. She's recorded perfect 10 scores on the floor, beam, and vault at NCAA events, holds 22 individual gymnastics titles during her first 3 years at LSU. She was Pan American Games champion on the USA team, which she represented between 2019 and 2021. In 2022, representing the Philippines, she won a bronze medal in the vault at the Asian Gymnastics Championship. Welcome. Vernon Norwood has spent a long time at LSU, so we're glad to have you here. He's an Olympic champion, winning gold medals in Tokyo and Paris, as well as a silver and a bronze medal. He's won 6 titles at World Athletics Championships, running over his main distance of 400 meters as part of successful USA relay teams, both men's and mixed, and once at the 4x200 meter distance. He also won gold in the individual 400 meters at the 2016 USA Indoor Track and Field Championships, and silver at the 23 USA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. At LSU, he swept the NCAA indoor and outdoor titles in the 400 meter dash during his senior season in 2015. He also became the 14th sprinter in collegiate history to sweep NCAA indoor and NCAA outdoor titles in the 400 meter, or 440 yards, I guess we do here, 440 yard dash in the same season. During his career, he anchored the Tigers to a pair of NCAA titles in the 400 meter relay, with wins in indoors in 2014 and outdoors in 2015. He ended his college career as a 4-time NCAA champion, 8-time All-American, and 9-time All-SEC sprinter in just 2 seasons at LSU in 2014 and 2015. He's from Morgan City and is a volunteer assistant coach with LSU Track and Field program. Thanks and welcome. Thank you, guys. Last but not least, Maggie McNeil. Maggie is one of Canada's most successful swimmers of all time. She is a 3-time Olympic medalist, winning the gold medal for the 100-meter butterfly at the Tokyo Olympics, as well as silver and bronze medals as part of the 4x100 free and 4x100 medley teams. She was named the best female athlete of the Tokyo Olympics by the Association of National Olympic Committees. She is also an 8-time world medalist in long course swimming and 11-time world medalist on short course swimming, 5-time Commonwealth Games medalist and Pan American Games champion. She currently holds the short course 50-meter backstroke and 100-meter butterfly world records. That's like nobody in the world can swim faster than she did. She was a 5-time SEC champion and earned SEC Swimmer of the Week 4 times. She was named SEC Female Swimmer of the Meet at the SEC Championships and earned the Commissioner's Trophy for being the top point scorer. She was LSU's Female Athlete of the Year for 2023. Her autobiography, Perseverance from Pandemic to Podium, will be published in 2025. Welcome, Maggie, and welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with what we would say in Australia, the oldies, the ones who competed in Tokyo and Paris. So Maggie and Vernon, you both competed and won gold medals in Tokyo, which were delayed because of COVID to 2021 and actually existed under less than optimal conditions. What was the experience like for you, and how different was the vibe in Paris, given that you didn't have the same COVID restrictions that you had in Tokyo?
The difference between Tokyo and Paris was obviously we had a wonderful crowd in Paris. The energy and the atmosphere was phenomenal, and to be able to have that, I think that made Paris a really, really good place to be at the time. And Tokyo, I mean, we just had to control the circumstances that we were under because COVID, we had to keep everyone safe. I think the Japanese Federation did a great job and showed everyone was following the protocol. So the only difference for me, I was to say that we just didn't have a crowd to compete against, you know, so this is almost like we were just out there just competing against ourselves. And we still had to get the job done and represent our country and ourselves and our, you know, our family name and stuff. But, you know, Paris was amazing. I think the French Federation did a great job setting everything up. Everyone was safe. Obviously, you know, a lot of countries walked away with some hardware, myself, I included, you know, and I had a good time. And I think that's the only difference because, you know, everyone wanted to be at that high elite stage and be able to compete too as well. But the crowd every day, they did a great job filling up those seats and I think it brought the best out of everyone there.
And I just learned earlier that you were actually able to participate in the opening ceremony going along the river. What was that like? He mentioned that in his speech.
It was different because I think a lot of people, I think they only remember that it rained that day. And we was all in ponchos and our nice outfits, but it was amazing for all the athletes to engage and to really meet each other from different sports. It was a fun experience, and I think, you know, just looking at the pictures and the videos, you know, I think the fans and everybody else, they had a great opportunity and experience to see everyone that was like, just all the other sports just come together, and, you know, it was fun. We had a good time on the boat. We were pretty much hungry, but they gave us a little snacks and waters throughout the meantime. But throughout that entire day, it was a wonderful experience. I don't think I'll ever forget those moments just because the rain, I think, made it even more special.
Maggie?
I think for me going into Tokyo, the two words that came to mind were both gratitude and relief. Relief that we had put the health crisis for the world first, and the relief just having a decision made originally in 2020. And when I got to Tokyo, I think it really eased up on the pressure that I put on myself. Obviously, having won at Worlds in 2019, there's always the pressure to repeat and to show that you're not a one-trick pony. And knowing we had less than optimal conditions, Canada was one of the more lockdown countries in the world. And Michigan, where I was at school, was coincidentally the most lockdown state as well. So just kind of having that in my back pocket, and I just went and had fun and tried to see what I could do to the best of my ability. And Paris was a complete 180 from that. The pressure of being an Olympic champion and trying to repeat that was something that it was really hard to grapple with. And I think even now, since my retirement, is something that I think about occasionally. But I think the biggest difference was, like kind of what Vernon said, having crowds, but for me it was having family. I had 17 family members in attendance, and it was a moment that, even though those swims and my performances weren't what I wished they were, just being able to share those moments with them as well. But kind of what Guy talked about the safety and everything kind of surrounding Paris versus Tokyo was also extremely different. I mean, I think as far as security went in Tokyo, it was our daily COVID test where we'd spit into a tube the first thing in the morning. And then my mom was quite shocked about this when I told her afterwards. In Paris, when we boarded the bus from the village to the venue or vice versa, they actually would tape the doors and all the windows shut to make sure that nothing had been tampered with while the bus was in transit. And then when you arrived at the other location, they would have mirrors scanning the top and the bottom of the bus. So being in that stifling heat, because there's not a lot of air conditioning on those buses with the doors and windows taped, reminded me a lot of the humidity being back here.
That's fair enough. Maggie, I know you didn't participate in the opening, just the closing ceremony. Aleah, were you able to do the opening?
Yes, so I participated in the opening ceremonies, and kind of like Vernon said, it was a lot of rain, but just a lot of people told me, they were like, I'm not sure if you should attend it, because our competition was not the day after, but the following day, and so wasn't really sure if that was something that was advised, but me, I was like, oh, I'm going, like 100%, like rain or shine, I'm gonna be there, and so just being there with all the other athletes and just, boarding on the boat, and our federation was small enough, we shared the boat with a few other countries as well, and the way that the opening ceremonies works, it was kind of like a circle, so you would pass the other countries as you were going one way before you turned around and before the ceremonies actually started. So just seeing all the different countries there and just seeing all the people in the audience, and I thought it was a great success, and I think that anyone else that was there on the boats can attribute to that as well. I'm not sure what the TV was showing, or I'm not sure, how the outside looking in, but it was just a moment I don't think I'll ever forget.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we didn't experience inside out like you guys did, looking towards the shore from the boats. So I guess you have a very unique perspective. Now, Aleah, I'm going to ask the question that everybody will want me to ask about. There were so many Olympians fan crushing on Simone Biles. So can you talk about what that was like in the gymnastics arena itself?
Hey, myself included, I think that she's incredible. And especially just growing up, I was on Team USA, like you mentioned before, and so I had the opportunity to train with her from years past, and it's just incredible to see what she's doing. I mean, this is her third Olympics, and the peak age for gymnastics once upon a time was 16. And at 27 years old, and some, she's continuing to push the limits and the boundaries for gymnastics. And myself included, I'm 21, and I'm considered, a little bit on the older age for gymnastics. And so she's incredible, and just, seeing what she does inside and outside of the gym, and just watching the Olympics unfold, I was just very, very in awe of what she does.
Tell everybody what it takes in a way for, a sport where you're well past the average historic age to kind of keep going and to get to the top and stay at the top. And maybe all of you can kind of comment on that just a little bit, because you have differing age ranges in different sports. Some stay longer, like Simone. Some get out quick, like Maggie. So tell me a little bit about that.
I think that my decision to, return to international competition really just stemmed from the support system that I had from around me, whether my coaches, my family, and if you have a goal, and I think that you can do anything that you put your mind to. And so following the 2020 Olympics, that was a goal of mine since I knew what the Olympics were, and unfortunately it didn't go my way. And so when I had the opportunity to compete for the Philippines, I had no idea that the Olympics were something to question. But, when you have a goal and you have, the right support system, then I think that to be able to stay in a high level such as international competitions and, such as the Olympics, I think that, consistency and support is key.
For me, preparation allows separation. I think the way you have to prepare yourself is going to separate you from the rest. And I take that mindset every single day with the routine and me being consistent And that's just not on the athletic side, that's just more everyday life, where I just try to prepare myself to be a better person, a better brother, better, brother, and just a better mentor to people that I do look after. So I was just preparing myself to allow me to separate myself, and I think that just always gives me the edge and the motivation to, I see a lot of athletes with a lot of talent, but they don't really have the right preparation for themselves to utilize that talent. So for me, I've been doing the exact same thing for the last 10 to 12 years. I've been very consistent at it, and it's actually showing. And I think a lot of people, I get overlooked, but now I think this past Olympic Games, a lot of people saw the consistency and the hard work that I put in, but I've been doing the exact same thing year in, year out. And I gotta give a lot of credit to Coach Shaver because, he brought a lot into myself with, the words and encouragement that he do give me. And he's a great, role model to myself because I see the same preparation he takes in for the track program because they had a tremendous amount of success while he was there. So, just seeing something like that every single day, you take a lot of that with you. So I will say just me preparing myself more mentally and physically, I think that allows me to continue going at a high level because I'm 32 now and I'm running a lot faster. I'm getting faster each year, so and a lot of people always ask me, are you going to make it to like LA 28? And I'm like, oh, I'm taking it year by year, we'll see. But just allowing myself to prepare myself more mentally, I think that gives me a lot of edge and a lot more focus too.
I was thinking, you and Maggie compete in sports where the difference between first and fourth could be a couple hundredths of a second. Like it's so close at the very top. It's got to be something inside you that keeps pushing you to get to that sort of final point.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little crazy though, so when it feels like it's getting tough, that means I'm real close. And I feel like each year and each moment, it's been getting real tough. So I know that I'm real close to something that's gonna like break out, break through. But it's like a chase, and I just love to compete too as well. So I mean, I'm not about to be working extremely hard and I don't have nothing to show for it. So, and that's just with every single thing that I do in my life, like my routine, just me being consistent. Like if I'm doing something every single day, I'm getting something out of there, guaranteed. So that's the same approach that I have.
That's awesome. Maggie, I've been a little bit fortunate because I've been able to read some of your story, so I've got to know you pretty well. But I know we're talking about Paris, but something that's always amazed me is in the Tokyo swim, if I'm not mistaken, in a 100-meter race, you turned 7th and won the gold medal. So what goes through your mind at that point? Do you know where you are, or do you rely on the knowledge of how good your dolphin kick is and just keep going, or what kind of keeps pushing you through? But that last 50 was insane.
All of the above, I think. I mean, based on the post-race meme that came out about me, how I couldn't see that I had won, I don't think I really knew where I was in the pool at any particular time. And for me, I think that was an advantage. My strategy is not to go it as fast just because I'm not physically able to do that with my competitors, and I kind of did the opposite in Paris and paid the price for it. So I think being separated from the top competitors, and because they do the opposite to me, I think it really helped me to stay in my lane, and something I kind of wish I had done more of in Paris. But yeah, kind of like what you guys have been talking about, it's the goals and what motivates you every day. And it was my first Olympics, so I mean, even coming off of COVID, I was just excited and grateful to be there. And it was the year after, I think, that was the hardest because I didn't know what I was competing for still. I had won at the Olympics, which is for swimming the pinnacle sport. And then I kind of went on and was like, okay, I haven't broken a world record yet. That's kind of the next thing on my list. And I accomplished that in December and really wasn't happy with where I was in the sport. And I really couldn't figure out why I was doing it until I came here to LSU and was rejuvenated and had a great new set of teammates. And swimming hasn't been terribly strong at LSU in the past, and it was really exciting for me to be able to mentor the young athletes coming in and to kind of contribute to this new change in swimming culture here.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more, Vernon, I've heard you or seen videos of you speaking before about the things you just said, about what motivates you and how you want to motivate others as well. Maggie, in writing your story, you just retired, and what are you hoping maybe to convey in telling your story to others? Because there's some interesting pieces where you didn't follow a conventional path to success, but followed your own path.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't really kind of start out that way. When COVID first hit, I remember that day like it was yesterday, and one of my former teachers had actually written to me and was like, I think you should record your thoughts. This is a really unique time in history, and you're in a really unique spot to kind of have a different view on what's happening. And I was like, okay, I will. So I kind of started to journal a little bit from that point, and now it's kind of morphed into something greater. But I mean, obviously, Vernon's been on the team for a very long time, and something I think that was really unique and glorious about my career is just how short and sweet it was. And I mean, for me, I think you could have too much of a good thing. So I think that's what I really enjoyed, and having the education behind me that I do is something that I'm extremely grateful for my parents for pushing that on me, and knowing that there's a career out of sport afterwards, and that's something I've been able to lean on now as I make this transition from sport into hopefully sport law. But yeah, for my path, it's just about trying to inspire young kids in swimming and sports, but also I think it's also a wake-up call to hopefully some parents as well. My parents didn't know anything about athletics. They're very musically inclined, and I have that aspect to me as well. But it's through their support and never them pushing me to have to go to practice, have to go to meets, you have to break this record. They kind of were taking my lead, and I think that's something that a lot of families can take away. And I think if my parents had been more on me, as far as my results go and my success, I definitely would not have stayed in the sport this long.
So I want to kind of move on, since we're all LSU people, and I'll start with Aleah since you're still competing. And for those of you who are interested, we're planning to do a tailgate for the LSU Georgia meet. A, I hate Georgia, and B, I love LSU and gymnastics. So we're excited to be doing that. But I wanted to hear kind of your thoughts on the LSU experience and what that's meant for you athletically and maybe academically as well.
Yeah, so I originally committed to LSU actually in 8th grade. And 13 years old, wandering around campus, being like, yeah, sure, I'd love to come here. I like purple. And I have an older sister who came to LSU for gymnastics, and under Dee Bro's head coaching, I kind of saw a lot of the behind the scenes and really what it's like to be a student athlete at LSU. And 13-year-old me, I picked the phone and I was like, I want to come to LSU. So since then, I never looked back, and it's been everything I could have ever dreamed and more, just from the team aspect, from competition, from the national championship, from academics. I'm going to be graduating in May at a degree in marketing, and I'm very excited about that as well, and where that can lead to post gymnastics, and really just enjoying my time. I think that being a student athlete has allowed so many opportunities, and also competing for the Philippines too. Like my LSU coaches actually pushed me to do that, and so that's something that I never really thought that I would have the chance to experience, and really just surrounded by so much love and support. It really means a lot to me.
Yeah, I'm just amazed, having moved to LSU in the last few months, just how phenomenal we are across so many different sports. And a large part of that, and I want everybody to know this because we probably have the two goats of LSU coaching in the room. Dee Bro just got mentioned, so raise your hand, Dee. She made the gymnastics program what it is, and then we're going to have Coach Shaver say a few words in a minute, and I'm going to introduce him since he's speaking. But oh my God, I thought, how did he achieve everything he achieved with all his athletes? And then I said, actually, Vernon has a lot of those accomplishments. So that's it's getting good people here and treating them well. And so I just want to thank the Olympians and everybody for attending and listening to some of their story. I urge you to watch some of their competitions if you missed them in Paris. Aleah was a little upset that the only event I saw her compete in, she said, was her worst. but I was at the time at the mercy of NBC Cross to Gymnastics. But I will tell you this, if you're in marketing or sports marketing, the amount of free advertising LSU got at the Olympic Games because of our athletes was insane. And that's, you know, from any of these guys showing them compete, and they'll go, oh, they're at LSU or we're at LSU, down to Mondo talking about how this isn't as loud as Tiger Stadium, I'm fine. You know, it's a wonderful culture that we have here, and for those of you who are students, so many things that are exciting about LSU. And one of the things that excites me the most is it's not just the football team; it's all our sports, and it's that we have athletes from around the world to both enrich our sporting culture and our culture as well. So thank the athletes one more time, and I'll take the last part of the program there. Okay, we've just got two more quick bits of commentary. One from Coach Shaver, and then one from Jacques Baran, who is here from New Orleans. He's the cultural attaché for the Consul General of France in New Orleans. So we're very fortunate that the French government sees Louisiana as so important to them that they invest time with us. And I know that those of you who might major in French or have done French courses have benefited from our relationship with the consulate in France and the support of France. You may also know or not know that Louisiana has an economic cooperation agreement with the Republic of France. So France sees Louisiana as unique, part of the United States because of our French heritage and culture. So let me just talk for a second about Coach Shaver. I didn't meet him till tonight, but I know about him and some of his story. He doesn't really need an introduction, but some of you are maybe young and don't know him as well or for as long. He's the most successful track and field coach probably of all time. He's coached 34 Olympians, 12 of whom have won Olympic medals. He has coached 69 NCAA champion athletes, as well as leading 26 relay teams to NCAA championships. His athletes have an astounding total of 643 All-American honors over his 40 years of coaching. Some of the marquee athletes he has coached include Olympians Vernon and Norwood, we just saw, Sha'Carri Richardson, Aleah Hobbs, Mondo Duplantis, Faber Ophelia, and many more. Please join me in welcoming Coach Shaver to the stage for some remarks.
Thank you, Dr. John. You know, it's really an honor for me, I guess, to be here this evening. And what a crowd! Awesome group here this evening. Just giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts about the Paris Olympics. I will be brief, though. I would like to thank each of the Olympians in attendance, obviously tonight, for your representation of yourself as well as your country. I think they deserve another round of applause for sure. You know, I always tell the athletes, as I quote, you know, if it were easy, everybody could do it. You know, achieving that level of performance in any sport is really due to a lot of self-discipline, tremendous amount of dedication, to make many different sacrifices in lifestyle in order to have the kind of success that they have, which is really and honestly not any different than any professional in any kind of work whatsoever. You know, the people that are really successful have that self-discipline and dedication to being the best that they can be. You know, our LSU track and field athletes met up in Paris. We met up about a week before the athletics or track and field portion of the program started to get acclimated and check out the training facilities as well as the competition venues and so forth, because sometimes that's always a real challenge to navigate through at times, and especially in many of the Olympic Games I've been to, you learn how to navigate through things, and then the next day you find out navigation is not the same, you know, so you have to be flexible, you have to adjust, and you have to be willing as athletes to just stay focused on the things at which you have control over and not worry about the things that you don't have control over. Many of you maybe knew that as we're getting ready for the women's 100-meter final, there were a couple things that happened that evening that were etched in my mind. You know, if you lived in the Olympic Village, you rode a bus and took you right to the warm-up track and dropped you off just right outside the gate of the warm-up track, right next to the Olympic Stadium where they would be competing. And on that particular night, they decided that, and many athletes didn't stay in the village; they stayed in a hotel, and so they were driven in. And just like as a personal coach, I was driven in and to find out that I couldn't get in the same way that I was getting in before. And when you ask somebody, well, where do I go to get in? Well, we don't know where you can go to get in. So there's Sha'Carri Richardson and Elaine Thompson sitting out, two of the world's best sprinters, trying to figure out how they're going to get in the stadium, into the warm-up track to warm up. So that was just probably the only thing that happened in the entire time that I was there. It was really a great experience. It was one of the best run Olympic Games of all of the Olympic Games that I've been to. You always felt safe. I still hear the sirens of the police vehicles going off continuously while we were there. The weather was awesome. People were just incredible. And also, I'd like to just mention too, USA had their very own practice venue, which also included a diner and that sort of thing. And so it was really a complex situation if you're coaching American athletes, but you're also coaching athletes from other countries because you couldn't practice at the same place. But it was interesting, once the game started, once the event started in the stadium, then we were able to practice on the warm-up track and everybody could be back together again, because that's always something that I have always felt has been attributable to the success that LSU track and field athletes have, is that we just kind of pick up from Burning Moore Stadium and here in Baton Rouge. We go there and we're doing all of the same things just like we did here, which I think keeps people in their comfort zone, to say the least, which is important. So I think it was a big challenge just trying to organize practices and that sort of thing, but we got through it. And thanks to Vernon and a lot of the other great athletes that I have the privilege to coach, made it all possible. So with that being said, I just want to repeat that the French people were awesome. The atmosphere at the stadium during the athletics events, track and field events, was incredible. It was an awesome experience for me personally to be able to be there. I think too, just the opening ceremony, as he discussed earlier, the iconic backgrounds to a lot of the things that were going on during the Olympic Games. A lot of those images are going to forever be etched in my mind as very, very special moments that you associate people like Vernon Norwood's performance at the Olympic Games, winning gold medal, that sort of thing, with the Eiffel Tower and all of the other things that we were able to experience while we were there. Another little tidbit, I didn't see any vehicles there that weren't electric, which just blew my mind, okay? It's Paris, there's a lot of vehicles, but every one I got in was electric, so that was kind of cool. A little different from here. In closing, just a few little tidbits. I think, athletes from all over the world, young people grow up with Olympic dreams. And, but as an example, just to kind of give you an idea just how difficult it is, let's say, for example, the 100 meters women, 48 athletes got into the Olympic Games. That's 48 people from all over the world that have trained for their entire lifetime to have that opportunity, but only 48 make it. So the fact that people make it to the games is just a phenomenal achievement. To advance at the Olympic Games is just incredible. To win a medal at the Olympic Games is really unbelievable, you know? And, you know, we're so proud of, and have been proud for so many years at World Championships, Olympic Games, to be able to watch people like Vernon Norwood, like Mondo Duplantis, like these athletes that represent themselves and represent LSU in such a first-class way. It just makes me so proud to see them achieve those kind of heights in their performances and so forth. So I guess what I'm saying is that kudos to Vernon and to all of the athletes, Olympic athletes that are here tonight for your achievements and gold medals and that sort of thing. When you put it all in perspective, as I've tried to do all over the world, youngsters have that vision and that dream of being an Olympian, and then to go not only have the dream of actually being there, but actually medaling is quite an achievement. So I would finish by just saying in track and field, the medal count, the LSU athletes would have placed third in the country's medal count had they kept medals for just LSU. So that was quite an achievement too that we're most proud of. So let's give these Olympians one last round of applause. And we will see you in Los Angeles.
Coach Shaver. This event would not be possible without the support of the French Department and the Center for French and Francophone Studies, as well as the Consulate of France. We're very excited to have that relationship developing, doing more work with French institutions, with French athletes in health, trying to get more people to learn medical terminology in French, to be able to practice in French-speaking areas in Louisiana. It's very exciting for us. So we have a reception in the ballroom next door, thanks to the consulate and the French department. So for just a few words, unfortunately, as you know, the traffic between Nouvelle-Orléans and Baton Rouge can be quite challenging. I spent an hour and a half getting here today because Highland Road was closed for an accident. So, you know, these things happen, but please welcome Jacques Baran from the Consul General of France.
Well, first of all, thank you, Coach Shaver, for saying that French people are awesome. This is music to my ear. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Consul General, Mr. Roland, I'd like to thank Dr. Nauright and everyone at the School of Kinesiology for this great event. LSU has a long-standing relation with universities in France, and I know that you have links with INSEP, which is a leading training and research center dedicated to athletes and sports science. But you also have a great partnership with the University of Lyon 1, and I'm happy to have seen today Professor Guillaume Bodet, a leading scholar in sport management. At the French Consulate, we've supported throughout the years many great initiatives from LSU, but tonight we're proud to be supporting this unique opportunity that enabled us to hear Olympic athletes share their insights and experiences from the Paris Games. These were not just games to us, but a historic milestone. Because at the starting line for Paris 2024, France set out to ensure that these games would leave a lasting impact on our nation and resonate across the world. And allow me to share just a few figures that illustrate the scale of this success. Over 16 million visitors, including 1.5 million international guests, and 4 billion viewers worldwide. Also the creation of 60,000 jobs tied directly to the Games, an investment of 700 million euros to combat pollution and restore biodiversity in the River Seine. And coming from Paris, I was born and raised in Paris as a child. You have to imagine that no one would even dare to put a finger in the River Seine. So I'm really excited to know that next time I'm in Paris, I can go and swim there. So next time you're in Paris, take her swimsuit. And nearly 400 million euros invested to make public buildings more accessible. So these Olympics set a new standard for how we approach international sports competitions. We demonstrated that the Games can rise to the challenges of our time, whether addressing security, environmental sustainability, or accessibility. Sports truly unites people and creates moments of shared humanity. And as we look ahead, I have confidence that the United States will bring the same level of ambition and innovation to the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. And I wish them every success in continuing this legacy. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you for joining us this evening. And so I think all that remains for me to do is to invite you to the reception and see our athletes. And Maggie has her medals with her. If you've never seen an Olympic medal up close and personal, I hope that's okay to say. If you would like to see that from the Tokyo Games. And I think keeping with the theme of tonight, being very positive, please join us. And vive la France, go Tigers.